Welcome back. Good to be here with you today. If you were gone last week, or if you haven't arrived yet, we started a new series of sermons, as this new bumper video will tell you. And it's a series of sermons on the book of Hebrews entitled Hold Fast. We want to start this year strong. We want to start this year focused, expectant of what God will do in the life of our church, but in your life as well. We want this year to be a different year. And so we are digging deep into the book of Hebrews. Last week, we focused on Hebrews chapter 1. Today, we're jumping in Hebrews chapter 2. If you missed last week's sermon, I would encourage you to go online and listen to the sermon or watch the sermon. We have those options for you, or go to our app and you can download the sermon notes as well. And as a matter of fact, if you download the app, you can follow along with the sermon notes as well. Like, we post these notes right before the service so that you can have access to them as well and even study them later. Well, in 1820, out of Nantucket, George Pollard Jr. sailed with 21 crewmen on a whale hunting ship to hunt for whales in the Pacific. He was part of a family that was well known, had a strong name in the nautical sailing world, but he was an inexperienced sailor. Even though he was inexperienced, he was still very arrogant. How many people do you know like that? They lack experience, but they're arrogant. Some of you are saying, that's my 14-year-old right there that you're talking about right now, Pastor. And in that journey with 21 crewmen, he made some really poor decisions, and he took them to unnecessary storms and to uncharted waters. And in one particular moment in their journey, their ship got hit by 2 sperm whales. This is a true story, by the way. And the ship fell apart, and him and the crew, they had to jump into the small whale boats. And for 93 days, they drifted. After 93 days, only 8 of them survived, and they were found by a British merchant ship by the name of the Indian. And they were found off of the coast of Chile. Think about that. From Nantucket to Chile, 93 days drifting. Had they not been found, they would have obviously died. And I was reminded of this story as I was studying Hebrews chapter 2. And I was also saddened by the state of many Christians in America today. It seems like they are drifting like these sailors of this story. They're living rudderless lives. There's no firm land in sight. There's no hope. Hope is gone because they have decided to take their lives into their own hands. They have sailed the ship of overconfidence, much like George Pollard sailed the Essex. And they have been thrown into uncharted waters of lives, and the sea monsters of life, the sea monsters of deception and of health and of relational crisis and of financial crisis have hit them hard, and now they are going nowhere. There was a research that came out this past year by the Christian research group Barna that compared the spiritual vitality of Christian adults today with Christian adults 20 years ago. And this is what we learned from that research, that in 2000, 74% of Christians, when asked if their faith was central to their lives, said yes, compared to only 54% today. And I want you to let this sink. 54% of Christians in America, adult Christians in America, say that their faith is central to everything that they do. It's central to their lives. And I'm glad that they're being honest, but it's a sad reality. And I was thinking about this. This may be the reality of those in our church as well, in this room, that you would say that you are a Christian because you go to church and you maybe sometimes go to a community group, but really central to your life is your goals, your vocation. Maybe it's your family. I'm not saying that these things are bad things, but that they have become ultimate things in your life. Almost half of American Christians could be fairly considered nominal Christians. You know what a nominal Christian is? It's someone that's a Christian just by name. They attend church 2 times a year. Guess which dates are? Christmas and Easter. They fill out the forms and they will say that they are Christians, but it's just nominal. Their faith is not core to who they are. And this is a reality that doesn't just poise us today, but it's always been around in the biblical times as well. This letter that we are focusing on for the next several weeks was a letter written by someone, a spiritual leader. We don't know who it was. We said it last week. I suspect that it was the Apostle Paul. Some say that maybe it was John. Others say that it was Luke, the evangelist. We don't know, but it doesn't matter. This letter is a letter written to urban Christians, possibly living in a large Roman city, even Rome, lived in a polytheistic, multicultural context, and they were facing the hardships of the Christian life, which we all face as soon as we accept Christ into our lives. When we go about living the life, we start to encounter obstacles and difficulties, and all of a sudden, we're saying, wait, I didn't sign up for this type of persecution. I didn't sign up for my friends judging me for becoming a Christian. It was affecting their business, it was affecting their relationship, and they were being tempted to go back to their old Jewish religion. Most of them were Jewish converts to Christianity. That's why the letter is entitled To the Hebrews. And as they were now loosening their contact with the Christian community and with their faith, like 54% of Americans, their faith was no longer central to them. They were drifting. And so the writer of Hebrews writes this letter to prevent that constant and progressive drift and gives them a word of warning. And what we're going to look at in chapter 2 is this word of warning, and it comes to them in a twofold manner. Number one, it's a warning to stop the drift, to keep them from drifting. And then secondly, it's a word of warning in the form of encouragement to say, hey, let's get back on track. Let's return home. Let's return to the harbor, how things are supposed to be. There is hope. There is a way back. So today I want to look at this drift, and I want to look at the way back that is central to what we're going to read here today. I want us to look at the warning that is trying to prevent them from this continuous drift. And so I want to invite you to open the Bible into Hebrews chapter 2. We're going to read right now just verse 1. So if you don't have a Bible, next week bring one. But that's okay. We have the text on the screen that you can follow along. This is verse 1 of chapter 2. Therefore, we must pay much closer attention to what we have heard, lest we drift away from it. We must pay close attention to what we have heard. There's been a message that's been preached to them. We're going to look into that in a little bit. And if we don't, we will drift. We will keep drifting. What happens when we drift? How does a drift take place? See, a drift doesn't happen suddenly. A drift happens slowly. A drift doesn't happen by accident. A drift happens by default. So we have amazing beaches here in Florida. The beach that my family always goes to is Key Biscayne Beach. And I love Key Biscayne Beach, not just because we have a family of churches that extends to that island as well. We have a campus there, and so I know we know a lot of folks there that are close to us. But it's a great beach, right? It's beautiful. The sand is white. The waters are calm. There's no waves. It's great to play with your kids. And so we go there. In fact, we spent the last week of last year in Key Biscayne with the family, and I actually took this picture myself. But these are beautiful waters, and you're always tempted to go into the water. And sometimes you go in with friends, and you're there with them, and you're holding a drink in one hand, and you're throwing a football to your kids with the other hand, and you're having a good time, and you're talking, and next thing you know, 30 minutes, an hour has gone by, and then you look, and you are 300 feet away from where you started. Now, you don't feel that drift. It's not like you're trying to run away because you have a private conversation you don't want the people out on the beach to listen to. But it just happens when you're in the waters, when you're no longer focused on your point of reference, which may be your lawn chair, which may be the umbrella, which may be your family. You're focusing on what's happening in the moment. They're in the water, and the water's warm. Actually, that week it was really cold, but most of the time it's warm, and you're having a good time. Next thing you know, you're drifting. And so many of us find ourselves in that reality, that we have found ourselves into the waters of career, in the waters of higher education, or in the waters of family dynamics, and we're just focused on what's happening here. And next thing we know, we have lost our point of reference, and we are nowhere to be found. Could this be you as well? I suspect that this is what's happening to Christians in America. We have lost our point of reference, and we're drifting. And you know what you need to do to drift? Nothing. Because drifts happen in a context of passivity. So I don't know about you, but sometimes in our own marriage, Beth and I, we've been married for 25 years. We have, I think, a wonderful marriage. That's my opinion. I don't know hers. You're not going to need to ask her. But there are times that you feel distant from one another. And when we get to points like that, and we feel distant from one another, you can almost look back and see that there has not been intentionality in spending time together and having deep and meaningful conversations and including each other's in our life's decisions. If you want your marriage to drift, all you need to do is nothing. If you want your health to drift, go downhill, you don't need to work hard at all. All you need to do is let go. All you need to do is nothing, and it will drift. And then you'll find yourself down the road 100 pounds heavier later. What happened? You did nothing. If you want the weeds to take over your yard, guess what you need to do? Nothing. If you want to be overtaken by spiritual apathy, what do you need to do? Nothing. Just do nothing. And you will drift. And you know you have drifted when you are more concerned with watching than living. There's so many of us that are watching other people live out their Christian life and think it's enough for us. Just because you're scrolling down the social media feed and liking someone else's spiritual life, it doesn't reflect the growth that's happening in your life. So some of you need to stop scrolling and start living. You know you have drifted when you have stopped gathering. You start isolating because other things have become your focal point. It's become kids and work and etc. And you have stopped gathering. As a matter of fact, there is a warning later on in this book about neglecting the gathering of God's people, and you stop gathering, you're isolating yourself. When you isolate yourself, you know you have drifted. You know you have drifted when convenience has replaced commitment in your life, when convenience has replaced commitment in your spiritual life. That's what's happening here with these Christians living in Rome. It was becoming inconvenient to become a Christian. You're losing businesses, you're losing friends. You have to change your sexual ethics. And it's much easier, it's much more convenient just to go back and to be accepted by my fellow Jewish parents and cousins, and to be able to do my business without having anyone question my integrity. And so commitment starts to drift because convenience had become a stronger word for them, as it may have become for you. When focus on someone else's performance, or even in your own performance, replaces your focus on the performance of Christ. That's what moralism and legalism is. When you now stop focusing on Christ's performance for you, what he has done for you, and you're too concerned with your own performance or pointing fingers at others who are not performing accordingly. That's religion. That's what they're falling back to back then in this letter. And that's losing sight of the gospel. It's when you learn to coast on your past spiritual momentum versus investing in what God is doing in your life in the present. It's stepping and pressing on into your Christian life in the moment. You're just coasting. There's a lot of people that are coasting on their spirituality that they have gained when they were kids because they went to Sunday school or a Christian school. Oh, I'm a Christian, I live in my life for Christ because I went to a Christian school. Because I remember the flannelgraphs stories in Sunday school. Do you guys even know what I'm talking about here? Somebody knows what I'm talking about here. Or because you came to faith and you were baptized 3-4 years ago and you think that that's enough. No, you've been drifting. You're going nowhere, your life is rudderless. And that's why in chapter 2 and verse 1, going back, he says, therefore. What is a therefore? Every time you read this in the Bible, it's telling you that this is the practical application to the teaching that has come before. What has he taught them before in chapter 1? He's saying that we must fix our eyes on Christ. That's what we talked about last week. Christ is our point of reference. Christ is supreme. Christ is above the angels. Christ is God's agent of creation. Everything is held together in Christ. Christ is our Savior. Christ is our advocate. That's what chapter 1 is all about. And he says, I want you to pay much closer attention to what we have heard. Christ is the reference point that you're no longer near to because you have drifted. He is the lighthouse that you must return to, that you must see and return to. This is another picture I took of the lighthouse in KB when I was riding my jet ski. This was a few years ago. It's probably during the pandemic, if I can remember correctly. But what is the purpose of a lighthouse? What's the purpose of a lighthouse? A lighthouse exists not to direct your ship. A lighthouse exists to give you a fixed point so that you can direct your ship. It doesn't do anything for you if you're not looking at it. It's not going to take you anywhere if you don't use it as a reference point. And Jesus is not going to do anything for you if you don't fix your eyes on him. Jesus is not going to take you anywhere. You're not going to be able to follow Jesus if you're not looking at him, if you're looking at other things. If you're looking at life passing you by, to your phone, or to the stock market, if that's what you obsess over, I'm not saying these things are wrong, but if that's your main focus, you cannot follow Jesus. Jesus is not going to take you where you need to go. You're not going to arrive where you need to be. So pay close attention, even more than before. Because if you don't, you will lose your point of reference. And if you lose your point of reference in Jesus, you will drift. And the reason why so many Americans have drifted is because they have lost their point of reference in Jesus. Christianity has become a self-help religion for them, to get them to achieve the goals that they want for themselves. They have stopped fixing their eyes on Jesus and have deposited their hopes on mere men, flawed men, as the hope for fixing what's wrong with the world and fixing what's wrong with people in their lives. We have set our eyes on politicians instead of Jesus, on political agendas instead of the scriptures, instead of the word of God. And that's why we are drifting. That's why you are drifting. You have stopped looking at Jesus as the lover of your soul, and you're depositing your hope at a prospect of romance in someone else. You're drifting, you're so far gone, you don't even know how far you are. You have lost completely your point of reference. But there's hope. There's hope. You can come back home. That's why this letter is written to begin with, is to prevent the drift so that they would return. The Spirit of God, I believe this. I believe that the Spirit of God is in this room, and the Spirit of God is sending messages very close to home to you right now. And the Spirit of God is trying to get you to feel the discomfort. And it's putting in your heart a desire to return, to find your way back. But how do you return after drifting so far, after being gone for so long? How do you return? There's two things that are here in the book of Hebrews, two pointers of how to find your way back. Number one, you must acknowledge the danger that you're in. You must acknowledge the danger that you're in. This is no joke. At some point, the voyage in the sea is no longer fun. It's become a problem. Do you know the danger that you're in? Oh no, Pastor, I'm just coasting. I'm just doing life. Let's see where God leads me. You are drifting. Acknowledge the danger. There's danger to that. Verse 2. Let's go to verse 2 now. That's what he says in verse 2. For since the message declared by angels proved to be reliable, and every transgression or disobedience received a just retribution. I'm going to stop right here. It's a comma. He's going to say something next, but I'm going to stop right here. First of all, what is this message that has been proven to be reliable, that's been declared by angels? What is he referring to? Most biblical commentators, I kind of circled that word there for you, will agree that that message is the law of God, the Ten Commandments. And the reason why it's clear to us here in verse 2 that this message that was declared by angels and that is proved to be reliable is the law of God is because of what it says next. Every transgression or disobedience received a just retribution. The law has a sentence, a customized sentence for every transgression of the law, every commandment. There's consequences to the sins that you commit, and there's a consequence to being a sinner, to being a lawbreaker. And it was understandable in Jewish culture that when Moses was up in Mount Sinai and received the Ten Commandments from God, that it was administered to him by the angels of God. So in rabbinic literature, in the Jewish framework, the law was given by God to Moses, but administered by angels. The angels were the ones that took it from the hands of God and gave it and put it in the hands of Moses. And it's a reliable word. If you violate the law of God, you will pay for it. You will pay for it. There will be consequences to it. And the reason why he puts this here, now let's put everything together. Why does he mention the law right after the drift in verse 1 and the prevention and the warning towards the drift? Why does he put the law? Because here's what he's doing. The purpose of the law is to show you that you are a sinner. There's no one here in this room, there's no human besides Jesus that has ever lived that has fulfilled the law of God perfectly. Martin Luther, the German reformer, used to say that the law of God functions to us like a mirror. This is what Luther said in particular about that. The law of Moses deals with mundane matters. It holds the mirror to the evil which is in the world, and by revealing the evil that is in us, it creates a longing in the heart for the better things of God. The purpose of the law is to show you that you need God, that you need a Savior, because it shows you that you're insufficient to fulfill it. Jesus gives further meaning to that in the Sermon on the Mount, where he says that you have to interpret our inability to fulfill the law not just at an objectable action type level, but at the level of intentions as well. So if you have never murdered somebody, but you desire someone to be dead, you've committed the same sin and you violated the law. When you look at the law, you're supposed to see that you are a sinner. It's supposed to create a longing in you for God's better things, for God's salvation. The law is supposed to show you this. That's why he puts it here. You cannot find your way back home by yourself. You cannot save yourself. You're beyond return. You need somebody to take you back. You need a Savior. You get the point? Have you ever heard the story of Lawn Chair Larry? Anyone heard the story of Lawn Chair Larry? There was this man in California. That's where you find these type of people. Who had sorry West Coast folks, sorry about that. I don't mean no disrespect. But it's the creative types I'm talking about here, all right? I'm talking about the creative types. There's no question of character, no nothing here. But this man had a dream from a very early age to be able to fly planes. And he could never do that in his life because he never had the opportunity. He didn't have enough money, and he had a poor eyesight. So he could never fly planes. So he turns 40. And he tells his girlfriend at the time, I have a dream. And I'm going to fulfill my dream at the age of 40. Now, many of you that are versed in psychology will say that's a midlife crisis. But he said, here's what I'm going to fly at the age of 40. But you never had the training. I studied this thing. I have a plan. I'm going to do it. So what he does is he goes to his backyard and he finds this lawn chair. He says, I'm going to fly with this lawn chair. And by the way, this lawn chair is still at the Smithsonian to this day. All right, this is 1982, still at the Smithsonian. So he takes his backyard lawn chair, and he goes and he buys 45 weather balloons, and he fills them with helium, and he straps them to his chair. And he puts 2 buckets on the side. One bucket, it's a good decision, a 6-pack of beer. Steroids to his madness. And on the other bucket, he puts a BB gun, a pellet gun. And his idea is that this thing goes up and I reach 6,000 feet. That's what his goal was. I'm going to be able to see the whole city. I'm going to drink a couple of beers up there. Then I'll start shooting the balloons and I'll slowly come back down. That was his plan. True story. So the day arrives, everything is ready. His girl's there. They let the ropes go, and he starts climbing up. 1,000 feet, 2,000, 4,000, 6,000. He likes what he sees. I'm going to keep going. So now he's at 8,000. Then he's at 10,000. Then he's at 16,000. Into the California, the LA airspace. And actually, true story, 2 commercial airline planes flag him and call back the tower. An unidentified object. And that's how it's tagged and labeled still at the Smithsonian today. And he's enjoying it. And then he hits the gust of wind. And he starts drifting. And he says, I need to shoot this thing down. So he picks up his BB gun and then he drops it. And so he's going drifting, drifting, drifting. Let me stop right here. That's the situation of most of you here in this room. You're just drifting rudderless in the airs or in the seas. You don't know where you're going. You're at the mercy of life. You have lost your point of reference. You don't know how you're going to get back. You don't know how you're going to get back home. The plan of landing safely in his own backyard is gone. It's long gone. And that's you right now. What do I do? You had no idea you were going to come at church today. Somebody was going to invite you and drag you into church today, and you were going to hear this message that is a perfect picture of where your life finds itself right now. And that's a prophetic word, by the way, to you. What do you do? How do you return? The mercy of God showed up to lawn chair Larry. I don't know how, but he starts being blown over. Now he is in LAX airspace, and they're sending helicopters up to see what's up. But the thing, it's maybe the pressure, the atmosphere's pressure is changing, and he's slowly going down. He doesn't know. But then as he's going down, he's like, oh, good, power line. His lawn chair hits a power line. Half of the city of LA is in a blackout now. Look at the mess that he has created. And some of you have created huge messes because you've been drifting. It's not going to go anywhere good, I'm telling you guys. It's not going to go anywhere good. And that's what happens to him. But it's by the grace of God. He doesn't die electrocuted. He's not decapitated. Nothing happens. He actually lands safely, and he's arrested. But they end up letting him go because his story was so good that they couldn't keep that man in jail, right? And it's the same mercy of God that preserved his life, which I believe, there's no way you cannot believe this, that is here in this room today. Speaking to those of you who have been drifting and are going nowhere, living rudderless lives. And God is saying, I want to bring you back home. There's two things that you must do. You must acknowledge that you are in danger. Do you understand the danger that you're in? Do you see the danger? Oh no, there's real danger here, guys. Real danger. And then the second thing you must do is you must see the great salvation that is before you. Verse 3, let's go to verse 3. Verse 3 now. Remember, I'm going to read verse 2 and 3 because it's there's a comma here, and I think it connects well. For since the message declared by angels proved to be reliable, and every transgression or disobedience received a just retribution. Now it's verse 3. How shall we escape if we neglect such a great salvation? Let me stop right here. How can you escape if you neglect this great salvation? Why is the salvation that the author of Hebrews is describing here a great salvation? Because it's something that you cannot produce on your own. It's not a salvation that you can procure for yourself. Someone else needs to save you. It has to come from elsewhere. That is why it is a great salvation. But you say, I've already been saved and let's see where God is going to lead me. No. What does it mean to acknowledge this great salvation, guys? What does it mean to acknowledge this great salvation? The first thing, let me use the metaphor. The first thing you must do, if you are drifting, rudderless, you must drop the anchor. There's an anchor. Did you know that there's an anchor in your boat? There are some times in life you find out things, I didn't know that was ever there. Yeah, it's there. There's an anchor there, and you must drop the anchor. Did you know that Christians back in those days, they had a metaphor for hope, and that was an anchor. It keeps us grounded. As a matter of fact, in chapter 6 of the same letter, this is what the author of Hebrews writes. Look at this. In chapter 6 of Hebrews, he says, we have this hope as what? An anchor for the soul, firm and secure. What's going to keep you from drifting, from further drift? Drop the anchor of hope. You must have hope right now. Some of you have lost all hope. And I know, because hope is hard. Hope is not easy. You know what's easy? Drifting. Drifting is easy. Anxiety is easy. You just go with the flow. But hope is hard. Because hope is going against the grain of your own heart. Hope is going against the forces of gravity in your life. And I know it's hard. And the reason why some of you have not thrown that anchor in the water yet is because it's been hard for you. You have lost all hope. Don't lose hope. And the Christian hope is unbelievable because the Christian hope is not just wishful thinking. You know, when we say, hey, I hope this happens, it's wishful thinking for us. So we hope that next week, next Monday, the Hurricanes will win, right? We hope. Hope? All right? Can we hope? That's what we hope. We don't know if it's going to happen, but we hope. That's wishful thinking. That's how we use the word hope. But the Christian concept of the word hope is an anchor. It's not going to go anywhere. And you must restore it, because if you lose hope, you die. If you lose hope, you die. Viktor Frankl, in his book, recorded the experience of many people in the German concentration camps, the ones who survived and the ones who died there. And he said that the ones who died had a common factor. They had lost all hope. You cannot lose hope. You must stay alive. The truth of the matter is that many of you are dead before you die. And you must not die of hopelessness. You must keep the hope alive. You must drop the anchor. And the second thing you must do, I'm going to tell you. Don't go there yet. I'm going to tell you. Because some people, sometimes they come to me and they say, Pastor, but the waters that I'm in are too deep for the size of rope that I got. And I get it. Say, I mean, Pastor, I'm so far gone. I've drifted so far away that I don't have enough rope. I know it's not going to touch the bottom if I throw this thing aboard. And I'm trying to tell you, that's not true, but I get how you're feeling. I get how you feel. It's too far gone. But God has made another provision if that's the case for you. He sent a rescue boat. He has sent a rescue boat. He has sent a rescue boat to meet you where you're at in the deep waters that you find yourself in, and He wants to tug you back home to the harbor safely. Jesus is that boat. He is the only one that can take you back to the safety of the household of God. He is the only one that can bring you back to the heart of the Father. He is the only one that can restore your joy of your salvation that you have lost. He can take you back home, and He's here. The Spirit of God is here, and He's coming here like a boat to all of those drifters in the room, and He's throwing a line. Are you going to grab it? No, I got this. I don't need this. I know how to find my way back. Heart filled with pride. And that's why He says, do not neglect such a great salvation. Many have neglected this great salvation. I got this on my own. I don't need it. Don't neglect this great salvation is here for you right now. It's to take you back home. See, salvation is not something that you float with. It's something that you cling to. And salvation is here. Will you cling into God's salvation right now? Will you cling to Jesus? Not just set your eyes on Jesus like He's exhorting us throughout this letter, but will you cling to Jesus right now? He wants to drive you back to safe land. He has fulfilled the law for you. He has faced the deep seas of trouble. He was cast into the abyss so that He would rescue you. And He's here saying, here's the rope. Are you going to grab it or not? I'll take you back to safe land. Will you take that rope today? Let me pray for you right now. Would you bow your heads?